Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Thursday. It's time to stream. So, if you see, I got a new baseball cap with the big B for Boston. Maybe you'll see this in some videos I make later. I got this because I want to act like a crazy guy from Boston and teach you a little bit about the Boston accent, which is kind of fun. So, today we're looking at Lesson 3, Conversation 3, right? So, in this lesson, we have our personality that is tofu, way too relaxed, way too chilled out. And he decides to go to a bookstore, right? So we go on an adventure to a bookstore, and what is he looking for? Well, he's looking for a cookbook. And there are many, many kinds of cookbooks out there, and our hero decides to get a cookbook about bland food. Ooh, oh my gosh. Food that's kind of boring, not much flavor. How about you? Do you like bland food? There are plenty of people out there that do. I really like strong flavors, but there are people who it's like, oh, too salty, too spicy, and they prefer things that are a little bit bland. And that's okay, right? Is that you, or do you like strong flavors like me? I had a friend in college that when we would go out for dinner to get like food together, he would just get a piece of chicken with some bread. Really, really bland, but he was happy, so I guess that works, right? So, when you go out to a bookstore, there's a lot of different choices, right? So a cookbook would be considered a non-fiction book. Fiction means a fake story. It's not real. So non-fiction means not imaginary, right? And then lots of other stories are fiction books, which are imaginary stories. They're not real. I really like reading fiction. Nonfiction is great, but fiction is kind of fun to try exploring another world or another author's like imagination, right? It's kind of fun to enjoy some crazy stories sometimes. Hello, good evening, welcome. So as I've said before, the camera's over here. If I look over here, I'm checking the chat. So if you're here with us today, if you have any questions or comments or anything to say, feel free to type a message in the chat and let me know. I'll try to respond as soon as I can, right? So we have our adventure in the bookstore, and ooh, you run into your friend Bob, and ooh, something nice happens to Bob too, right? Maybe Bob has a chance with this this person at the bookstore. Maybe he'll get a date out of it, right? So let's just get started with our homework. We have a bunch of different things, and some of them were pretty tricky, right? Some of them were very straightforward, and we don't have a lot to talk about. But then other ones were quite tricky, so we have some things to go over, okay? And that's okay. There's differences between Chinese and English, and it's not that you guys had trouble because you're not smart. It's just me moving from Chinese to English can be really tough sometimes. And the words get all mixed up. And you have to think about, oh, grammar and, oh, what words do I use? So let's go piece by piece and talk about it, okay? So let's get started with Lesson 3, Conversation 3, Part 2, right? In this part, we are talking about reported speech. So someone says something, it comes to me, I hear it, and then I tell someone else. So this is really useful for telling stories. Oh, this happened yesterday. I heard this. He said that. Or he asked me this. She asked me that. Stuff like that. Okay? So this is really useful for telling someone about what someone else said. Right? So our first sentence is 我男友说他爱上别人了. Oh my gosh. So maybe a friend of yours says this. Oh, I have bad news. And the bad news is my boyfriend said that he loves someone else. Oh, so sad. Now, another way to say this would be, my boyfriend said that he fell in love with someone else. Oh, terrible. So someone is dating a guy, and this is the boyfriend. the boyfriend said to this person that he loves someone else. Oh, so sad, right? So it's over. Probably going to be over, but we'll see. Maybe they can fix it. So, like we said, with reported speech, you hear one person say it, and so you say, oh, he said this. So my boyfriend said that, blah, 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 blah. Okay? Now, do we need the word that? Actually, no. You can drop the word that. So you could say, my boyfriend said that he loves someone else. Or you could say, my boyfriend said he loves someone else. So the word said, you can have that or know that. It's up to you, your choice. Now, the verb, he said he loves someone else. So we could use the word loves. He loves someone else. Or you could say he fell in love with someone else. You could also say he's into someone else. The meaning is a little bit different if you say he's into someone. So all three of these are okay in this sentence, but the meaning is slightly different. If you say he loves someone else, that means right now he loves that person and he still loves them. If you say he fell in love with someone, you're focusing on what happened. So him, the love starting. Falling in love means the love starts, okay? So fell in love is probably actually the best translation for I sung, right? For I sung, it sounds like it happened, right? So if it's something that happened, fell in love is a good one. And then if you say he's into someone, a few students use into. He's into someone else. Now, into means he likes someone. It's not as strong as love. You could use that in this sentence and it's okay. But the word love is a lot stronger. So it's similar meaning. Being into someone means you like them romantically, but loves is a lot stronger, okay? Now, I also saw a few students use loved in the past tense. He loved someone else. Now, that is in the past tense. That means it's over. And if it's over, then we wouldn't have this problem, right? So it's better to use the present tense like loves. He loves someone else. Or past tense talking about the action of what happened. He fell in love with someone else, okay? Loved, if you say he loved someone else, that means it's over. And maybe then it's okay. Maybe it was a long time ago, right? And then I also saw he falls in love with someone else. Now that's present tense. And present tense means it happens again and again. So we don't want to use that in this sentence because it's not happening again and again. Your boyfriend can't fall in love with someone again and again and again. Or I don't think so. It's a little bit funny. And then I also saw fell love. Remember, you need the word in. So he fell in love with someone else, okay? Someone falls into love or falls in love, okay? Now, I use the word someone else. That just means another person because I don't know who. So Björn, you could say someone else, another person, but I don't know who. Now, you could also say another person. So that's fine too, another person. And then I also saw other girl. Another girl would be okay. Another girl would be okay. But if you just say other girl, it sounds a little bit off. You need another girl. So an in front, okay? I also saw another one. You shouldn't use one like that in this situation. You should say another person or another girl or something like that, okay? Those were the big things, just the verb. For love or fell in love, you need to be careful of loves would be the present tense, meaning it's still true, or he fell in love. It happened, and now he's in love with a person, okay? And then focus on he loves who? Someone else or another person. Both of those are okay, okay? Next up, this guy, oh my gosh, what a pain. He says, 他告诉我他喜欢温柔的女生. Oh, okay. Now, this is a pretty common phrase in Chinese, but it's not very common in English, so it's a little bit tricky to translate. And also the word 温柔 is pretty tough to translate. There's a lot of dictionaries will not have the best way to translate this. So the way I wrote it is, he told me that he likes gentle and kind women. So he told me that he likes gentle and kind women. Okay. So there are not a lot of problems with this. Everybody got the grammar really well. So he told me that he likes blah, 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 blah. Okay. So he told me that he likes blah, 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 blah. And so 温柔的女生, I say gentle and kind women. Now, this is not a very common phrase in English, actually, because usually men wouldn't really describe that they want a woman who's really like nice and quiet and kind, and oh, she's so cute and nice and warm and gentle. So you could say this, but it's not super common. A lot of Americans would actually want to date a woman who's a little more stronger and independent. So yeah, whatever. So 温柔 I would translate as gentle and kind. Gentle means she's not very strong or crazy or anything. And then kind means she's very nice. You could also say maybe he likes women that are affectionate. Affectionate means they show a lot of love. Okay? And the word warm is pretty good here too. So a few people use warm, but saying warm women just like that sounds a little bit strange. So you would say women who are warm and kind or something like that. But I think 温柔 would be the best way to say it would be gentle and kind. Maybe a little bit of a not nice, soft person, and they're kind, they're friendly, right? Now the word tender, I know the word in dictionaries, 温柔 comes up as tender, and it's not wrong, but it sounds a little bit strange in English, saying tender women. Now, I would recommend you don't use tender women, this phrase, because tender is often used to talk about food. Oh, this meat is very tender. If you're eating a steak and you say, ooh, this steak is nice and tender, it's soft and delicious that way. So if you describe a woman as tender, yes, it means she's nice and kind and gentle, but most people will think of meat first when they hear the word tender. So if you say, he likes tender women, it sounds a little bit creepy. Like he's thinking about the woman like a piece of meat, and you don't want that. That's not okay, right? So, so 温柔, if you trust your dictionary too much, your dictionary will say tender and tender women. But an American might think, ooh, is he thinking of her as like a piece of meat that he thinks looks delicious? Ugh, you don't want to say that, right? So be careful if you trust your dictionary too much. Maybe try to Google other ways to say it. Like, gentle and kind might be the best way. Or affectionate, or warm is pretty good. Women who are warm-hearted would be a nice way to say it. Okay? Now, the next one was pretty straightforward. I think everyone got it pretty close. So, 他问我是否可以原谅他. So, this guy, he fell in love with someone else. And then he says, so he asked me whether or not I could forgive him. You could also say, he asked me if I could forgive him. Okay? So we learned the phrase whether or not before, right? Whether or not means it's a yes or no question. He asked me whether or not I could forgive him. My answer will be yes or no. So the whether or not, okay? Now, whether or not is almost the same as if, but it's just more clear that it's yes or no. So you could also say, he asked me if I could forgive him, okay? Now, I think almost everybody got this almost exactly the same. One of these answers, whether or not, or if. Now, the one thing that a couple of people had different are I could forgive him. If I could forgive him. I also saw if I would forgive him. Now, could and would are both okay in this sentence. So that's great. The meaning is slightly different, okay? If you use the word could, he asked me if I could forgive him. He's asking, is it possible? Is there a chance? Am I able to forgive him? Okay? So could suggests there's a like we're not sure about the possibility. Okay? And then would is for the word will, right? Could comes from can, would comes from will. So would means in the future. So he asked me if I would forgive him. So he's asking about in the future, will you forgive me? So the meaning, in the end, it's actually basically the same, right? He asked me if I could forgive him. He asked me if I would forgive him. It's really the same, but the meaning is slightly, a tiny bit different. Could is it possible? Would is, will it happen? Okay? So in the end, in reality, it's the same, but that's the slight difference between could and would. Okay? Now, next up is 我回答我需要考虑一下. Ooh, I need to think, right? So, I wrote this as, I replied that I need to think about it. I replied that I need to think about it. Okay? So, I need to think about it is a pretty common phrase. These words go together a lot. I need to think about it. I need to think about it. So anytime someone asks you a hard question, you could say, oh, I need to think about it. And like you can tell, you can kind of squish the words together and people can still get it. I need to think about it. Okay? So I replied that I need to think about it. So here, I use the word reply. Replied just means I said something back. Okay? You could also use the word answered. I answered that. That's totally fine. He had a question, I answered, okay? And some students also use the word told him. I told him that I need to think about it. This is totally fine too, but it doesn't have the meaning of reply, right? It's just telling him. So in this situation, it is the same, right? Reply and told him is the same in this sentence, right? But in other sentences, it's slightly different. Replied has to be an answer, right? Answer has to be an answer. Told does not need to be. You could just tell someone something, okay? But in this sentence, all three are fine. Replied, answered, told. One thing to remember, if you use replied or answered, for replied and answered, you need the word that. I replied that I need to think about it. It sounds a little bit better with that. I answered that I need to think about it, okay? If you just say, I answered, I need to think about it, you're missing the word that. It sounds incomplete, okay? So I use to think about it. I need to think about it. You could also say, I need to consider it. Consider is another word that means the same thing. So 考虑 could be think about it or consider it, okay? Both are fine. Consider it. Consider is a little bit more formal. So day-to-day life, you could use both. Think about would be more common spoken. Consider sounds a little bit more formal, but it's totally fine. It's good. Okay? You could also use the phrase, I need to think it over. Think it over. So it is the question or the situation. I need to think it over. So you're like thinking a lot about that thing. Now, I saw a few people say think over it. Now, be careful. It should be think it over, okay? That's just the set order that we do. 1, 2, 3. Think it over. I need to think it over. I also saw a few people use a while at the end. I need to think about it for a while. Now, you don't need the word a while because a while means it's for a long time. You don't really need to explain that it's going to be for a long time, right? So just say, I need to think about it, okay? Now, moving right along, let's get into lesson 3, conversation 3, part 3, 333. Our first sentence is, 哦，你觉得我可以吃完6个汉堡吗？ Oh my God. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, too much. Maybe he has a really big mouth. So in English, I would say, do you think I can finish 6 hamburgers? Ho, 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 ho. Feeling pretty hungry. Do you think I can finish 6 hamburgers? So this one, also not many big problems. So do you think I can finish 6 hamburgers? So I use the word finish. And because you say a food, you say hamburgers, you can just use the word finish. So the verb finish by itself, you don't need to say finish eating, right? Finish can include the meaning of eat if you just use a food word. Do you think I can finish 6 hamburgers? People also use the word eat. Do you think I can eat 6 hamburgers? That's fine too. But if you use the word eat, you're just generally saying you're going to eat them. Finish puts emphasis, makes it stronger, focusing on it's probably going to be hard. And then, do you think I can finish 6 hamburgers? So it's putting focus on actually finishing them, which is probably going to be pretty tough, right? It's going to be difficult because 6 hamburgers is a lot, okay? Now, I said, do you think I can finish 6 hamburgers? Is there something missing there? Well, you can put in the word that. Do you think that I can finish 6 hamburgers? So, do you think that blah, 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 blah is totally fine. That's okay. But in spoken English, a lot of the time that we will pull it out because we don't need it. So it's extra speaking. You don't need that extra word. So keep it short, drop that, okay? Now, a couple people said eat up. Do you think I can eat up 6 hamburgers? Here, we don't need the word up, okay? Just use the word eat. Eat up would be, it suggests you're eating it really quickly, and you're focusing on the speed of it. So in this sentence, we're not really talking about how fast you can do it. Maybe it'll take you 2 hours, slowly eating, 1, 2, 3, So using the word eat up suggests that it goes quickly. Like if you have some candy and you eat them up, you eat them quick, right? Okay. Now, next up is 我相信你可以. So one person says, do you think I can finish 6 hamburgers? And the friend says, I believe you can. So, yeah, I think so. Maybe you're a monster. You can definitely eat 6. I believe you can. Now, you can take that. I believe you can. You can is our subject verb, right? And we can shorten it to I believe so. This is just a fancy way to say yes. Do you think I can finish 6 hamburgers? I believe you can. Or I believe so. Now, day-to-day English, Americans don't really use the word yes by itself very often. So whenever you answer yes or no, you always want to add more words. So knowing phrases like this, yes, I believe so, can be really useful. So usually when someone answers you, you never want to just say yes or just say no. You always want to add more, okay? So here I said, I believe so. Believe is pretty strong. Like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you can. I believe you can. Okay? A few people use I think so. I think so sounds like you're not very sure. I think so. So that's kind of like maybe you can. Okay? So if we want to make it stronger, we can say I believe. So 我相信你可以 because it sounds kind of strong. Like, yeah, really, I think so. Like pretty strong. You can say believe to make it more confident. Okay? So I said, I believe you can. I believe so. I also saw some students write, I believe that you can do it. This is fine. The grammar is correct, but you don't need it to be so long, right? Do you think I can finish 6 hamburgers? Yes, I believe you can do it. Now, you're repeating some words in the question. You don't need to. You can make it shorter. Just make it a little bit quicker. I believe you can, or I believe so. Keep the most important words. Okay? Next up, keep going. 我们一定要收拾房间吗? Oh, so maybe you're 2 little kids and they might say this. Oh, 我们一定要收拾房间吗? Oh, I just want to play video games. I want to relax. So the question is, do we really need to clean our rooms? Oh, geez. I don't want to clean my room. There's clothes everywhere. Oh, gee. There's clothes, there's toys everywhere, there are books everywhere. It's a mess. Do we really need to clean our rooms? So, day-to-day conversation using the do form of the question. Do we need to? Or do we really need to? Really just makes it stronger that like you don't really want to. Do we really need to clean our rooms? But you don't need that word really. So you could say, do we need to clean our rooms? Okay, both are okay. Now, I saw a few students write, must we? Must we clean our rooms? Now, this is correct grammar. Must and need to are the same meaning. Must we clean our rooms? But must sounds quite formal. It sounds pretty formal. And in day-to-day conversation, we don't often ask questions with must. You won't hear many Americans use must in a question. Must I do this? Must we do that? It sounds a little old-fashioned. It's correct, but it sounds a little bit old-fashioned. You might hear it in movies or read it in books. But speaking, people don't usually use must in questions, okay? So, do we really need to clean our rooms? Now here I use the word clean. The verb is clean. And this could mean tidy your room or clean your room or whatever. But the most common word for this sentence would be clean. Clean our rooms or clean my room, clean the room. And that could be sweeping or dusting, or it could be tidying, all of them. So a lot of students use tidy. Do we really need to tidy our rooms? This is okay. This is correct. In American English, the word tidy is less common than clean. People would just say clean the room. Tidy the room is a little more formal. This might be more common in British English. Oh, please tidy your room. In American English, they just say go clean your room. Okay? And then I saw a few people use clean up. So I use clean our rooms. A few students use clean up our rooms. Now, actually, clean up doesn't really work here well because clean up, you can think about it, there's a mess and you have to clean it up. So maybe there are many things on the table and you have to clean those things up. You can think about like you're picking them up. So to clean up something, what do you clean up? You clean up things that are in the room. You don't clean up a room because you can't pick up the room, okay? So you clean up things that are around, you pick them up, okay? But for the room, the whole room, you just clean the room. You don't clean up the room. Does that make sense? So you clean up small things, many small things, or you clean a place, okay? So moving forward, I use our rooms because It's we, maybe you and your brother or you and your sister, and you hear your parents say, go clean your room. And then you say, oh, do we have to clean our rooms? I would say that if you and your brother or sister have two different rooms, right? So in my house growing up, I had a room, and my brother and sister, we each had a bedroom. So if my mom and dad said, go clean your rooms, we would say, do we really need to clean our rooms? Because each of us has our own room, okay? But if you're talking about the room you're in, you could say, do we really need to clean the room? Meaning the room we are standing in, okay? All of these are okay, but it depends on what you're imagining, right? I'm imagining I have to go to my room, my sister has to go to her room. Do we have to really clean our rooms, okay? And then why? Why do we need to clean our rooms? Oh, geez. Do we really need to clean our rooms? Mama说要. So, oh, do we really need to? Mama 说要. Go, go, go. So, how would we say this in English? Most of you got it easy peasy, no problem. Mom said so. Mom said so, right? So, do we really need to clean our rooms? Mom said so. So, maybe you could say it that way. So, Mom told us to clean our rooms. Mom said you need to clean your room. So you can say, Mom said so. Okay? That one, almost everybody got really straight up. You could also say, Mother said so. Not many kids call their mom mother, but some might. Oh, Mother said so. But usually kids in America will just say Mom. And Mommy actually is not very common for kids to say. Kids will say Mom. Maybe really, really little kids might say Mommy, but most kids will just say Mom, M-O-M. And then kids in England will say Mum, M-U-M. Okay? So Mom or Mum. So Mom said so. Now, I saw a couple of people say Mom thinks so. So, do we really need to clean our room? Mom thinks so. So that means Mom thinks we need to clean our rooms. So the meaning is a little bit different, but that doesn't mean she told you to. If Mom told us, you'd say Mom said so, okay? So it's not wrong, but the meaning is slightly different. So, any questions? Feel free to leave a question in the chat. It seems like nothing so far. Some of these are pretty straightforward. I think a lot of you did a really good job on these questions. But coming up, this section was a little bit tricky, so let's take a look. Now, the next part is talking about thought of or thought about, okay? So if you think of something, generally it's for a short time. If you think about something, you're spending time to consider it. You're thinking hard about something, okay? And then dream of and dream about are similar. Often dream of and dream about can mean the same thing, but it could be just like think of and about. Think of or dream of something, maybe right now. Dream about it. Oh, you're thinking for a long time, okay? And then heard about and heard of. You hear about something, you learn the details, or you hear of something, you hear that it happened or it exists, right? Did you hear of the gold in the mountain over there? Oh my gosh, really? And then knowing of something, know about something, right? I know a lot about movies, but then I know of computer programming, but I don't know a lot about it, okay? So about is for details. Know of means I know it's there. I know it exists, okay? So the first sentence is 打开旧相簿，忽然想到好多回忆。So, oh. So I write this as, when I opened my old photo album, I suddenly thought of many memories. Oh, that memory, that memory, that memory. Oh my gosh. So When I opened my old photo album, I suddenly thought of many memories. Oh, 1, 2, 3. Okay? So, we got a lot of responses for this one, but there were some key differences, key things to notice and focus on. Now, first up is the tense. When is this happening? In the Chinese version of this, it just has the verbs 打开 and then 想到, but it doesn't tell you when this happened, right? So you have to imagine, when could this happen? Is it happening right now? Probably not, because when you're speaking, you're usually telling stories about what already happened. So in this one, it's probably a good use to use the past tense. So when I opened my old photo album. So also in English, we need to add extra words to kind of connect the ideas together. In Chinese, you just have verb and verb. But in English, we need the word when, okay? When, and then we also need a subject, who, when I, okay? You can't just start with the verb. So don't just say, opened my photo album. You need when I opened my old photo album. So I think most people already have this down, but you got to be careful when you're moving from language to language. Remember, you're not just taking the words and changing them to English. Sometimes you have to add a lot of words to make it make sense, okay? Or make the grammar work correctly. So, when I opened my old photo album, past tense, I suddenly thought of many memories, past tense of thought, okay? So we're imagining this already happened. And like I said, you need to add the word when. When I opened my old photo album, then what happened? You could also use the word after. After I opened my old photo album, I suddenly blah, blah, blah. Or if you want to say it's at the same time, you could use the word while. While I was opening my old photo album, I suddenly thought of many memories. That's okay too. While would mean at the same time, right? Okay. Now, first up is 就像不. I wrote this as old photo album. So it's old, meaning maybe you've had it for 10 or 20 years, right? And then photo album. Now, many of you use just the word album. Now, album is not wrong, but we want to be more clear, what kind of album is it? So if we're talking about a thing filled with pictures, we want to say photo album. If you just say the word album, the first thing someone will think of is actually like an album of music. So album is the English word for 专辑. So a music album, like 10 songs on a CD, that's called an album. So if you're talking about a book filled with pictures, you want to say photo album, okay? So make sure to add the word photo album. Album sounds like you're talking about music, okay? When I opened my old photo album, I suddenly thought of many memories. Now, you thought of many memories. I use of because here's one, I think about it a short time. Here's another, short time. Another, short time, okay? You thought of. So if you think of something, it's usually for a short time, okay? If you use the word about, it means you're spending more time thinking about it. It's okay to use here. I suddenly thought about many different memories, but maybe you're spending more time, okay? Instead of one by one. And then I also saw I suddenly was thinking about back in the old days, okay? Or I was thinking about the old days. That would be okay too. So you could change the word memories to like a long time ago. I suddenly started thinking about my youth, or when I was a kid, or way back then, or back in the old days, okay? So there are many different ways to write this, okay? Next up, let's keep moving. 我想象有一天全世界 都说同一个语言。So maybe someone might say this, and then they can travel the world and go blah, blah, blah to everybody. Okay? So in English, I would say this as, I dream of a day when the whole world speaks the same language. That would make traveling really easy, right? I dream of a day when the whole world speaks the same language. Now, this would make travel really easy. But would you really like this? I don't think I would like it. I think languages are fun and languages are really interesting. But maybe someday far in the future, languages will slowly mix together into just one world language. That might happen. But hopefully we protect the different languages, because learning different languages is fun and it's pretty cool, I think. So someone might say this because it makes traveling easy, but many different languages makes the world really interesting, I think. Okay? So when we're dreaming of something, usually we'd say, I dream of something. So I dream of a day when the whole world speaks the same language. So I think of it and I dream of that. Okay? Now, if we say dream about, it means you spend more time dreaming about it. So usually dream about would be for you're actually sleeping and you're having a dream. Oh, I dreamt about flying in the sky. So dreaming about is usually for actually when you're sleeping and you're spending time dreaming about something. Okay? But if we're talking about one thing like a day, you could use the word of. Dream of that. Okay? I also saw a few people use think of. I think of a day, or I think of a time when. But here we're talking about like the person is hoping for it. So we want to use the word dream. It makes it a little more like you're hoping for it. You're dreaming about it, or you're dreaming of it. Okay? So you dream about something happening. But if you were saying a day, you'd say dream of a day because it's one little thing. Okay? So I said, I dream of a day when blah, 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 blah. You could also flip it around. I saw one student write, I dream about everyone in the world speaking the same language one day. That is fine too. So you're dreaming about the situation, the whole thing, everything being like that, right? So for me, I'm thinking about one day. It's a small thing. I dream of a day. But if you're thinking about it happening, the whole situation, I dream about everyone in the world speaking the same language one day. That's okay too. So putting the time at the end. That's great. Okay? Now, I said when the whole world speaks the same language. You could also say when all of the world speaks the same language, or when people all over the world speak the same language. All of these are okay. But I saw all the world. But usually we want to keep the word of, all of the word, okay? And we'd say speak the same language or speaks the same language. Don't add the word in. You don't need it. So I saw a couple of people say speak in the same language, but you don't need in. Okay? So speak the same language. Next up, 你有听过爸爸追妈妈的故事吗? So maybe your dad was going after your mom and your mom said no. And then over time she said, okay. So this actually happened to my mom and dad. So my dad asked my mom out and my mom said, no, it's okay. No, thank you. And then my dad asked her again, hey, you want to go on a date? And my mom said, no, it's okay. No, thank you. And then he asked her one more time. And then she says, okay, I guess so. And then they fell in love and yada, yada, yada. Here I am. So it worked out pretty well. They're still together now. So she said, no, okay. And then they fell in love. Worked out pretty good. Okay? So, 你有听过爸爸追妈妈的故事吗? So I translate this as two different ways. So using our grammar, heard about. Have you heard about how dad pursued mom? So have you heard about how dad pursued mom? And then you could also say, if you want to include the word story, you don't want to add the word about. So have you heard the story of how dad pursued mom? Okay. So have you heard the story of how dad pursued mom? So both of these would be okay. So this sentence going from Chinese to English is a little bit tricky, right? Let's start with the verb. I use have you heard. And then some students use the word did you hear. So have you heard is the present perfect tense. Present perfect have you heard is talking about in your whole life, have you heard this story? And then students use did you hear? Did you hear? Blah, 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 blah. That means did it happen one time? So the meaning is actually kind of the same, but have you heard is focused on in your life, have you experienced it? Have you heard the story before? Did you hear means did you hear it one time? So the meaning is almost the same. We've learned that before, right? Past and present perfect can be the same, but I would use present perfect here because it's like, did this happen in your life? Have you heard it? Okay. And then the word 追, baba 追 mama. I use the word pursue, how he pursued mom. Okay. And then you could also say how dad went after mom. And then some students also use the word chased, how dad chased mom. Now you need to be careful about the words, all these words, pursued, went after, and chased. It sounds like running and chasing after someone. We don't actually use these too often in English. So usually we would focus on the dating, but if you're talking about your dad going after mom, so you could use going after, pursuing, chasing. But you have to be clear that it's a happy memory, or like maybe it was a funny time, right? Because in modern day, usually people want to be equals in a relationship, or in American culture, men and women want to be equals in the dating life. So now a lot of people want to focus on that they were dating. Now, if you talk about pursuing or chasing or courting or going after somebody, you have to make sure it's clear that it's a happy memory and both people were having fun with it, okay? Because just using pursuing, like, oh, she didn't like him, but he pursued her, it sounds a little bit old-fashioned. If you're not clear that both of them were having fun, okay? And that it's a happy memory. So in modern day dating, people want to be equals. Like, oh, they ask them out, and they're both really happy to be dating. Okay, so you want to make it clear that it's a good thing, right? And if mom and dad are married, it must be, right? So have you heard about how dad pursued mom? And then I also saw a student use the word court, dad courting mom. Now, courting is not wrong, but it's very old-fashioned. It's formal. So men used to court women in the old days, but we don't really use that word anymore. So you could use pursued or went after mom, or maybe like asked out. So how dad was asking out mom all the time or something like that. Okay, so now the tricky part is the heard about. So for the word story, we actually don't use heard of the story, or if you say heard of the story, that means do you know the story exists? Have you heard of the story Jack and the Beanstalk? Probably. Or have you heard of the story The Three Little Pigs? You could say, yes, I've heard of it, but I don't know the story. Okay? And then, have you heard about the story? Would mean like, have you heard details about it? But the real story, did you hear the start, the beginning, the middle, and the end? You could just use the word heard the story. So that made this sentence a little bit tricky for people. So, have you heard about how dad pursued mom? If you use about, you want details about how he did it. So, have you heard about how dad did it? But if we want to use the word story, have you heard the story? So, you just hear a story. You don't need to hear about the story. You don't need to hear the details about it. Just tell me the story, okay? So, that was a little bit tricky. Next up is, 你知道这件事情的来龙去脉吗? So, I translate this as, do you know all about what happened? This is just definitely keeping it simple. Do you know all about what happened? And then another way to say it is, do you know the whole story? So, maybe something crazy happened and you want to know, do you know the whole story? So 来龙去脉 is like from the beginning, the middle, and the end. Everything all about it, right? So I said, do you know all about what happened? So you could just say, do you know about what happened? But if you want to make it extra clear that it's everything, the beginning, part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5, and the end, you can add the word all. Okay, do you know all about what happened? Okay, and then, do you know the whole story? Now, this is not using the word about, but if you want to show the beginning, the middle, and the end, you can say the whole story. Okay, now another way to say it is, do you know all about this matter? So I saw a couple students say that. This matter meaning what happened, but so that would be 这件事情 is this matter. But this is not super common in English, so we would change that to a verb and say what happened. Okay? And then I saw a few students use the phrase ins and outs. And that's okay. The ins and outs means all of the details. So you could say, do you know all of the ins and outs of what happened? And that's okay. Yeah. So ins and outs means all the details. Okay? And then I said the whole story. And then a few students said the whole thing. Now, the whole thing means the whole thing, but we want each piece on the inside too. So you should say the whole story. So the whole thing is like the big picture, but we want all the details too. I also saw the context. Now, if this is what happened, the context is actually outside of that. So context is a little bit different than all of the details, right? Okay? And so I use the phrase, do you know? Do you know all about what happened? Meaning right now, do you still know it? A few people use did you know? So that would be the past tense. And that would mean maybe it's over. Did you know all about what happened? So back then, did you know? But if we're focusing on now, you'd say, do you know? Okay? You could also say, have you heard? So you're asking the person, did they hear all of the details? Have you heard all about what happened? Okay? So the meaning is slightly different. It's not focusing on do you know it, but have you heard it? Okay? So this one was a little tricky. And so, do you know all about what happened? Do you know from the start, the middle, and the end? Okay? Or do you know the whole story? Okay? And then our last piece was our dialogue, going into our adventure at the bookstore, looking for a book all about boring food. Oh, and then Bob tries to help, but you're not really listening to what Bob says. You're just thinking about your book. Oh, my book. Okay? So our first sentence is, 我问我朋友这道菜会不会辣? Are you okay? So what you'd say is, I asked my friend if the food was spicy. So we want past tense because this happened before. The friend was over there, and now I'm telling this person. So I asked my friend if the food was spicy. Could also say, I asked my friend whether the food was spicy or not. So if and whether or not are basically the same, right? Whether or not just makes it clear that it's a yes or no question. And then one more way to say this is saying, I asked my friend, is the food spicy? So if we're doing reported speech, so this is my friend over here, and I'm telling you. Usually you would say it as a sentence. I asked my friend if the food was spicy, period. Okay? Now, if it's in a book, it might be written with quotation marks. I asked my friend, is the food spicy? So I'm telling you, I asked him, is the food spicy? So you're repeating exactly what you said, okay? So a few people mix these together. So if it's reported speech, I asked my friend if the food was spicy. There is no question mark. You only put a question mark if you're repeating the exact question. I asked my friend, hey friend, is the food spicy? Then you put a question mark, okay? Now, I use the word food because that's probably the most common way to say it in day-to-day life, okay? Is the food spicy? You could also say the dish. So most students use the word dish, but day-to-day conversation, instead of saying dish, we would say the food, okay? Is the dish spicy? But we'd actually probably say, is the food spicy? Okay? So that's the only difference. I would use the word food. That's the go-to way to say it. Hey, is the food spicy? I asked my friend, if the food is spicy, okay? So is it reported speech, or are you quoting the exact words you use, okay? Next up, so I asked him that, and then 他回答他不觉得辣. And so, no, not spicy for me. Ho ho. So, in English, I would say, he replied that he didn't think it was spicy. You could also shorten that. So because we had the first part, I asked if the food was spicy, you could also say, he replied that he didn't think so. So he replied that he didn't think it was spicy. He replied that he didn't think so. Okay. I use the word replied. He replied. You could also say he answered. Both are fine. And he replied that. He answered that. Okay? And then the verb I use, he didn't think it was spicy. So you could also said he replied that it wasn't spicy. So that would be fine too. You can leave out that he didn't think. So he replied that it wasn't spicy. Okay? And then a few students said he didn't feel spicy. Now, you don't want to use the word feel and spicy. Feel is a feeling in you. I feel tired. He feels angry. She feels happy. You don't feel spicy. So spicy is the flavor of the food, so it's not your feeling, okay? So be careful. In Chinese is 觉得, but in English, we don't use the word feel for spicy, okay? 感觉辣 would be think it's spicy, right? So he doesn't think it's spicy, okay? And then I said we could shorten it to he replied that he didn't think so. I saw at least one student say he replied that he thought not. Now, that is correct, but it is not common in spoken English. I think I said in our lesson that it's correct, but it sounds very old-fashioned and very formal. He said that he thought not. In day-to-day life, most people would not say thought not. We would say didn't think so, okay? So I would say use didn't think so unless you want to say very formal. It might sound a little bit funny, make your friends go, "Whoo, he's trying to be really fancy. Oh, he thought not. Okay? And then one more thing is that we're talking about what happened before, so we should use the past tense. He replied that he didn't think so. Okay? Now, last but not least, your friend said, oh, I don't think so. So our last sentence is, 但我不这么觉得，他的脸变红了。So, just to keep the flow going, the way I would write this, to make it sound more natural, he replied that he didn't think so. I don't think so. His face turned red. So, to make it sound more natural, make it sound like a exclamation, you're excited, I would drop the word but. So, I don't think so. His face turned red. So, anytime you're expressing that you don't believe something is true, you can say, I don't think so. You could add the word but. So, most students use the word but I don't think so. That's okay. But in writing, we often don't start with the word but. So, and also you can start this phrase just, I don't think so. Okay? So you could have the word but or no but. In English, we don't need it, but you could have it if you want. In spoken English. But in written, you don't want to start with the word but, okay? I don't think so. His face turned red. Now, I've said this a million times, but remember, if there are two ideas, we need two sentences. I don't think so. His face turned red. Okay? If you want to put them together, you need a conjunction. I saw one student use the word because. That's okay. I don't think so because his face turned red. That makes it one sentence. Okay? Now, his face turned red. Turn red means goes from one color and turns and changes to another color. Turned red. So this is a very common phrase. His face turned red. Okay? So that would be the first choice I would go for. Some students said his face was getting red. That's okay too. Or his face was becoming red. That's okay too. Or his face became red. That would be okay. Or his face got red. Okay? I also saw students saying he was getting flushed. Now, getting flushed is correct, meaning his face turns red. But usually we use someone gets flushed when they are embarrassed or they're feeling shy. Ooh. So when something is spicy, we would just use the word red. So he turned red. Getting flushed sounds like maybe they felt embarrassed or shy. Okay? Now, make sure you use turned red by itself. I saw a couple people say was turned red, but you don't want to put was and turned together. You could say his face turned red or his face was turning red. Okay? So, I don't think so. His face turned red. Maybe your friend is trying to be too strong. So, what about you? Do you like this kind of spicy food? One time, I brought a friend to eat Indian food with me. Indian food can be really, really spicy. He doesn't really eat Indian food often. And then we were talking, and suddenly he was all red and sweating. And then I asked him, oh my gosh, are you okay? He says, oh, it's super spicy, but it's amazing. So even though he was turning red, he loved the food. How about you? Can you handle super spicy food like that? I love spicy food. Or are you like our character, this chill guy who really likes bland food that tastes like nothing? Well, or maybe you're somewhere in the middle. You don't like super strong stuff. You don't like bland stuff. You like it a little bit spicy. Okay? So, I think that's pretty much it for tonight. We don't have any questions outstanding. So if you have any other questions, some of these were pretty tricky. other ones were pretty easy. So everyone did a good job trying your best using the grammar we've learned and the words we've learned. So hopefully you've already had your dinner. It's getting pretty late. So maybe you can have a late night snack, but probably don't eat something too spicy this late at night. And then remember, I'll stick around for a little bit if anyone would like to chat after our stream. And you can send me a message. And anyone who has joined, one question before I close up. Can I say, he didn't think the food is not spicy? If you say he didn't think the food is not spicy, this is a double negative, meaning you have two nots. He didn't think, so he did not think it was not spicy. So if you say he didn't think it was not spicy, that means he thinks it was spicy. So two negatives, not and not, becomes yes. He didn't think it was not spicy means he thought it was spicy. If you said he didn't think the food was spicy, that's totally fine, because I said he didn't think it was spicy. What is it? It is just the food, right? So I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that question, but so I mean, can I use is rather than was? Okay, sorry about that. I was focused on the wrong part. I was focused on the word not. So remember, the stars should be connected to the word you're highlighting. Punctuation always goes with the word it should be sticking to the word it's going with. Sorry, I thought the star went with food and the star went with not. Sorry about that. So he didn't think it is spicy. So because we're using the word didn't, that means we're telling a story about the past. If you use the word is, he didn't think the food is spicy. It doesn't really work here because didn't means the past tense. And so then it was spicy needs to be past tense too, because you're telling a story about what already happened, right? Maybe your friend eating the food is in the past tense. So both things, both verbs, the think and was are both in the past. So you need the words to line up. So a lot of the times the tenses need to match. It already happened, so I didn't think, or he didn't think, and then it was spicy back then, okay? If you use the word is, that means the food is still there. But in this situation, we're talking about that it already happened. The situation was in the past, so all of the verbs need to be in the past. Does that make sense? So using the word is kind of creates a conflict. Like you're talking about a situation in the past, but you're talking about the food right now. It kind of makes a confusing situation. Does that make sense? So usually you have to imagine when everything was happening. Was he eating food before? If it was before, we need past tense, so was. Is he eating it right now? Then you could say is. Like, so the verbs have to match when the situation is. But the way I'm imagining it is we're talking about, oh, I asked my friend if the food was spicy. And then he replied he didn't think it was spicy back then. And then his face turned red back then, okay? So because we're talking about telling a story about what happened, it happened before and I'm telling someone else, that means that it all happened already. And so it stays in the past. Hopefully that makes sense. Because I'm telling a story to another person, that means everything already happened, okay? So when we're telling stories, everything already happened, so the verbs are usually all in the past tense. Hopefully that clears it up a little bit. Whew. tenses can be tricky, but you got to imagine when it happened. If it all happened already, past tense, okay? So let's wrap up here for now. Hopefully you didn't eat anything too spicy. Hopefully I didn't talk too much. Maybe I'm turning red too. Oh. So let's wrap up here. If you're available and you want to chat, send me a message at Kyle Moai. I'll stick around for a few minutes and chat with some students. Thank you for joining. And anyone who watches this after the live stream, feel free to send some questions, send me a message, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. So thank you very much for joining, and I'll see you next time. And next up, it's going into conversation 4 with our fun, silly personality. So you'll find out how that character deals with this situation, okay? So I'll see you next time. Have a good night and have a good week. See you next Thursday. Bye-bye.